Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel and back to another Disney Dreamlight Valley video. So in today's video we are going to be using some of my stream content where on stream we were creating a beautiful garden sort of design and pathway up to the new mushroom house from the premium shop from last week. I saw this house in the shop and I was like, I have to have it in my meadow somewhere, and I wanted to design a really unique and quite big area leading up to the house just to make it feel a lot more special and a lot more autumnal. So whilst I was streaming on Wednesday when the house released, we were designing the outside of the house and we were all discussing and deciding what kind of items and objects we'd want to use to make this fairy inspired cottagecore mushroom garden. So this video is just some of the sped up content from that stream, and I will voice over it and go through everything we did each step of the way. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and I will see you on the other side. So to start off with, in the stream we decided to path out our pathway in the front of the house. Obviously we wanted to make sure that this was done straight away just so we could get an idea of where we wanted to place each rock and what kind of pathway we wanted to create. I knew I wanted to create a rock with stones and make it more of a cobbled pathway rather than a structured pathway like the rest of the biome. I don't currently have the rock rug, which is perfect for builds like this, so until Scrooge decides to give those to me in the shop one day, I will be sticking to these pebble pathways, which do still work really well, but I do know that one day I can replace these with the rock rug once I finally get it. Underneath the pathway we decided to just put the unbordered mud path. The mud path worked well in this biome. I did try and test out using the straw path, but I just found it just didn't work well with the colour of the grass. It just looked a bit out of place, but the mud path worked really well. So what we did now is we just placed the mud path sporadically under each pebbled piece just to get an idea of where the pathway would go. I wanted to make sure it was a curved pathway so it looked as natural as possible, and I wanted it to look kind of like somewhere you would just find in the forest and it wasn't so built up and structured. So I kind of just did it in a random kind of curvature just to give it a bit of a nicer look. Once we completed the larger stone pieces, we then went in with some of the smaller rocks around the side of the pathway just to give it a little bit more depth, and also to kind of mimic how the rocks would place naturally in real life on a pathway like this. So we used some of the peaceful meadow rocks just to give it a little bit more structure. We knew we'd go in later with some more of these rocks, but I only put a few down at first just to get a better idea of where I wanted them to be, especially on those larger portions, before we went in and placed some trees. So going into this design, I kind of had an idea of some of the trees I wanted to use. I knew at some point I probably would want to use one of the Dreamlight trees just because I knew it would really fit in this area and it would look really effective. But I also wanted to see if I could potentially use one of the swamp trees. Obviously these are typically used more in the glade, but I knew they would fit the mushroom kind of cottage aesthetic of this area, so I wanted to place one of them in and just see if it would work, and we kind of played around with the trees for quite a while. Once we found all the trees we were going to use, I kind of had a look at what ones we'd chosen. I used a couple of the red maple trees just because they brought a really good colour into the area and looked very autumnal, and they contrasted really well with the orange roof of the mushroom house. These trees I use a lot over my valley, especially around this time of year, but I just felt that even more so they really fit this area. So I placed a few of those around the house just to kind of build the area up and make it look a lot more cozy and a lot more shaded, like as if it was in a forest, with also having those bigger statement trees to be really effective nearer the front of the pathway. Once we placed the trees and kind of got a rough idea of where we wanted them to go, we decided to place a lot of the bushes and shrubbery around the back of the house. I knew that back here I wouldn't need the space to put in any objects or anything because they wouldn't be seen as they are tucked away in the corner. I did have some trees and shrubbery already placed around this corner because this was previously where I had Belle and Beast's castle. I had it here next to Beast's kind of greenhouse, flower garden. But I decided to move them up to the forest when I redecorated. So I had this space in the meadow free, and once we saw that we were getting the mushroom house, I left it completely free, knowing that this is exactly where I wanted this house to go, as I knew it would fit really, really well in this spot and give us a lot of space to work with to put in a lot of decoration. So with the fact that there was a lot of shrubbery and trees already behind here, I didn't have to add too much. Most of the colours I used around that area originally were green just to fit with the meadow, but as I was adding the mushroom house into this area, I decided that I was going to add a lot more orange and red shrubbery from the Sunlit Plateau. So I used the Sunlit Plateau flower bush as well as the small and large bushes, just because bringing in the orange there really, really tied in well with the mushroom house, but also didn't make it feel too orange and too overpowered, as it was the contrast between the different shades of green and the orange bushes as well. After confirming exactly where we wanted to put the trees with some help from chat, we then decided to place in some of the bigger objects that I knew I wanted to use in this area, that I knew would take up some space, so I needed to kind of secure where I wanted those to go, just so I could start working around them. So I placed in 2 of the pumpkin vine lamps. I knew I wanted to use these in this area. I love these lamps. I love using them as much as I possibly can, especially anywhere autumnal. So my marketplace and my pumpkin farm currently have a lot of these around, but I knew these would fit really, really well with the mushroom house, as they're kind of the light source that we have that fits the best with that vibe. So I placed those in, as well as placing in one of the frozen picnic mats. The red frozen picnic mat is great as it has such an autumny vibe. Obviously it has pumpkins on it and a lot of bread baskets and cushions, things like that, to make it look really, really cozy. But the red contrasted really, really well with the red trees and the orange bushes and house. After I placed the larger objects, I then went in with some of the smaller objects, such as the yellow bike from Wally. I knew I wanted to use this here. I use this yellow bike constantly, and I knew it would work perfectly here, so I popped that in front of the house as though the person who's living there had parked their bike there at the end of the day. I also added the blue pumpkin cart from Cinderella, as this works really, really well to go with the pumpkin theme, as well as bring a really rustic feel to the area. I then decided to start adding some of the really smaller items, so I added a lot of pumpkins. So I have the stacked pumpkins as well as the Mickey pumpkins. I didn't choose to use any of the jack-o'-lanterns. We did debate it between us in chat, but we felt that they had too much of a Halloweeny vibe, and I knew after Halloween had passed that I wouldn't want to have those there just because it didn't feel right. But I knew the Mickey pumpkin and the stacked pumpkins worked perfectly in this area, and I knew I could keep them there all year round. I also then started to add some candles. So in a lot of my biomes and a lot of my areas in my valley, I use these really small candles to light up different bushes and forested areas. So if you look at any of my areas in my valley that are just shrubbery and trees and bushes, I dot the candles in between the bushes to give it a really lovely warm glow. Obviously during the day you can't see them, they're completely hidden, you don't tend to notice them. However, when you roam through the valley at sunset or during the night time, you get this really, really beautiful yellow glow coming from all those overgrown areas. After we'd added in some of those smaller objects and all the lights around, I then went back in and added a lot more shrubbery and a lot more smaller items just to give the area more life. So we added some of the smaller ferns as well as a lot more rocks along the pathway. I wanted it to feel as natural as possible. I didn't want it to feel structured, so I kind of dotted some of these around, but was conscious not to put too many just because I didn't want it to feel too overwhelmed. but we did go in afterwards and apply a lot more of these along the path just to make it a little bit more structured. I knew eventually I'd probably take some of these out or adapt them slightly, which I did eventually after the stream, just to give it a little bit more of space so characters could get in and out. I was noticing some of the characters coming in to see what had been created and explore the area, and they were kind of struggling to get to the picnic blanket and to the easel and things like that due to those rocks. So I decided to move some of those out of the way just so I could utilize the area. And I've seen a lot more of my villagers come now and have a look at these areas or stand at the easel and pretend to paint, which is very nice. Finally, I began adding in lots of the little tree stumps and more of the overgrown little ferns on the floor, as well as the wooden logs. Obviously, I wanted to place these next to the wooden cart that I'd placed on the right hand side of the house, just to give it the idea as though the character that would live here, or the person that would live here, would be chopping logs and things like that to take inside to place on a fire. At some point, I do want to decorate all of my premium shop houses. Some of them are currently half decorated, all decorated, only have one item in them, because I want to make them themed to what the house are. So currently my Monsters Inc. house does have a few of the Monsters Inc. items in that I do currently have from Scrooge's shop, but as I collect things, I do want to make sure all these houses are themed, just to give them more character and give us some more space to build some really cool designs. Once we completed all this, we just had a little run around the area just to make sure we could get through the path securely and make sure we could get to everything that we wanted to get to. We also tested out the little seat on the Dreamlight tree just to see if other characters in the valley would be able to use this, as I thought it'd be a really nice spot for them to sit down, especially maybe Belle with a book, or some of the other characters, or even myself for a dream snap or a picture just in this area just to enjoy it. But I wanted to have a little test that everything worked, and I was happy with the end result of how this came out. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that tutorial. As I said, it is currently a work in progress. I'm obviously going to adapt it and make changes to it as I go along, which I do with most of my builds. I'm always never 100% happy with them, so I'll always probably add things in or change things, and hopefully if we get some new items or I get lucky with anything in Scrooge's shop or in the premium store, I will be able to add some new things to go in this area. But at the moment I am happy with how it's looking, especially during the time now where I'm recording and it's sunset and it's all looking very autumnal, and the sparkles are coming off of the Dreamlight tree perfectly for this frame. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do have any changes you think I should make or any ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions. As I said, it is always a work in progress, so I'm more than happy for you guys to give me some advice. If you guys would like to see some more tutorials from me or see some of the other builds I've done in my valley, just drop a comment below and let me know. I, at some point, will be doing a valley tour. I just want to make sure my valley is 100% done. I've completed a couple of the biomes and I'm happy with them, but I want to just make sure it's all done. I'm not sure how long it'll take me to finish my valley, but I will try my very best to get that to you before December. As you guys know, final thing, I took this content from my stream on Twitch. I stream on Twitch regularly and I'm majority of the time playing Disney Dreamlight Valley. I sometimes play other games such as co-op games or The Sims, depending on what we have going on that week. But if you guys are interested in seeing any of my streams and joining in with the community, then the link will be in the description for my Twitch channel, and I would love to see some of you guys there. As always, if you guys enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like on the video. It means a lot to me, and every like is such a big support for the channel and starting off with that. Also, if you do want to see more content from me and more Disney Dreamlight Valley tutorials and ideas and things like that, then do not forget to subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!